Good morning and welcome to our mid-year results presentation from our studio here in Eindhoven. Today I'm accompanied again with Annemiek, and together we will provide you with an update on our mid-year results. But before we get started, let's point at the disclaimer, which is our standard disclaimer. Please read it when you have a chance. And let's now take a look at today's agenda. I will kick it off with an introduction, and then Annemiek will take you through the financials for both the group as well as the divisions, and also update you with an outlook. I will then come back to talk about our broader strategy and also share progress on several of our key initiatives. And at the end of the session, we will open it up for questions from both our analysts who are live on the phone, as well as from you, the rest of the audience. And you can ask questions on your screen. We will answer them at the end of this presentation. So let's start with our ambitious strategic agenda that we already shared with you last year. In the meantime, we have made great progress in building a stronger platform to accelerate our future growth. First of all, we completed our portfolio optimization, and that's why we made this box green. All structurally underperforming businesses have now been either exited or remediated. Second, we continue to build a strong platform for growth with the completion of our SG&A cost reduction program and by generating 20 million of free cash flow in the first half. And this is a step change to where we have been in the past, as legacy issues have pushed the company into negative cash flow. And we progressed on our digitization program, which will drive further efficiency. Now, our key focus is really on the third box as well, where we want to accelerate our organic growth. In the first half, you saw the first results where we reached 4% growth, which is already clearly better than what we have done in the past, but our ambition is higher. And our refreshed commercial strategy in our largest division, commercial waste, shows its first successes, which I will share with you later. And also the implementation of CSRD at our customers creates more interest and opportunity for recycling. Let's take a look at our portfolio turnaround. We are very proud and also relieved that we have completed the divestment of our UK municipal business in line with earlier guidance. It has been a complex and challenging process, which is now behind us. And we have already explained the transaction benefits that we have communicated before. But the most important is probably that we have taken a challenging and risky business with very limited synergy to our core business, and we have replaced it with a predictable and much cheaper loan, resulting in a significantly de-risked balance sheet. Now, the second component of our portfolio optimization is the turnaround of our minerals and waters business. Here you see the result of several years of hard work. And in the first half, we have been able to increase our EBIT 5 times versus last year, and we reach an EBIT margin of 10%. And that puts minerals and water among the best performing business units at Renewi. Now, the turnaround is driven by 3 factors. The most important is the one relating to the soil cleaning business, where we're turning around our soil cleaning business into secondary material production. Since last year, we take our contaminated soil and tar-containing asphalt, and we turn it into sand, gravel, and a filler that we sell to the concrete industry. So we stopped making thermally treated soil. And we have worked diligently over the last year to improve our quality of the sand and filler, so concrete producers can use it to lower their carbon emissions and to produce high-quality building products. And although we're not finished, because we believe we can further improve the quality, this led to already significant profit improvements. We also, as a second factor that helped our EBIT, we closed some loss-making activities related to bottom ash cleaning. And thirdly, we also drove some continuous improvements in our water treatment business, which also underpinned our EBIT performance. Now, next to the work we have done on our portfolio, we have put more focus on driving organic growth of our core business. Here you see some examples of how we work in close partnership with customers to create circular solutions and to reduce the incineration and landfill. The first one is an example where we partnered with a consortium of infrastructure contractors to recycle large volumes of concrete and also provide 130,000 tons of secondary building materials to the A9 motorway project. Because we were able to take some of the material back and redeploy it in this project, it became a true circular solution. The second example is in the medical sector. To help hospitals to reduce their carbon footprint, we offer them tailored support and knowledge to reuse and recycle their waste instead of burning waste, which is typically what happens with hospital waste today. And to do so, we have created a joint venture with a company called Green Cycle. Together with them and with very passionate hospital workers, we help hospitals on their journey to reduce their carbon footprint and at the end to get to net zero. Now, the third example is an example of the largest shipbuilder in the Netherlands called Damen. And with them, we have been working to achieve a reduction of their residual waste and in that way to reduce their carbon footprint. Together with our EcoSmart team, we have worked on their sites to help them guide through this process and increase the amount of monostreams sorted at the source, which can be 100% recycled. Now, when we translate this progress that we have made in the financials, you can see it part coming through already in the first half, and we expect further improvement in the second half. So to recap, we are executing on our strategic priorities. We have delivered on our first quarter and first half commitments. And when we look ahead, our outlook is in line. Our 25 fiscal year EBIT from continuing operations is in line with market expectations. And we will be proposing a dividend at year end in line with our dividend policy. And also our medium-term outlook remains on track. With this, let me pass it over to Annemiek, who will give you a closer look at the financials.
Thank you, Otto, and good morning, everyone. Let's take a look at the financial performance of our company. If you look at the top line here, you can see that we have increased our revenues with 4%, which has been demonstrating our pricing power in our commercial waste business, where we are the market leader in the Benelux. But also within specialities, we see Coolrec and Malta continuing their double-digit growth. We also achieved a 9% EBIT increase. This was largely driven by the turnaround in minerals and water that Otto just touched upon, but also the SG&A cost savings coming through. If you quickly look at the exceptionals, I think there's a few things to note. There is the restructuring cost still from Simplify that we completed last year, but also the non-cash changes in the discount rates on our long-term provisions. And that was a benefit last year of around 17 million, but it was a charge this year. So there is quite a big delta when you look at our discount rate and provisions, which go through exceptionals, and again, they have a non-cash impact. Ultimately, our underlying EPS is at 27%, which is a 4% increase. When we take a slightly deeper look into the EBIT, there are a number of things that are being demonstrated. So first of all, I already touched upon the pricing power of Renewi as a market leader. This has been demonstrated year after year, and it covers cost inflation in our company. So you see the 25.8 million of price increases, more than covering for the cost increases that are driven by inflation. Next to that, we also see the cost savings coming through, and also these are for a part offset by slightly lower recyclate. So the recyclate prices have been stable as of summer last year, but still when we compare half year to half year, there is still roughly a 3 million impact. Also, we still see somewhat subdued volumes within our commercial waste volumes, which had an impact of 5.6. But all in all, together with the cost savings that we did, you see a net positive impact in the box of 10.7 million. Next to that, we also continue to invest into our digital agenda, as in the medium to long term, this will really mean a step up in our efficiency, in our customer services, but also in our EBIT and our growth. So we keep on investing there, which had an impact compared to the run rate last year of almost 2 million. And also one-offs for comparison reasons. Important to realize that last year, the half year was supported by 9.6 million of favorable one-offs, and this year, much less, of 4 million. And so that actually means that we are really focused on improving the underlying business. Quickly on the group cash flow. Our cash flow is positive. And this is a major point for Renewi, because year after year, legacy issues have pushed the company into negative cash flow, and here we turned the corner. So this demonstrates again, we deliver on our commitments. If you look at the components of this positive cash flow, of course, you see the 5 million step up in EBITDA, but also the result of a relentless focus on working capital. So the working capital improvement was achieved, amongst others, by strong focus on our billing process to make structural improvements and our receivables. And in addition, we also increased our invoice discounting program from 90 to 95%, which also freed up some cash. Looking at replacement capex, this was lower as a result of timing, but also increased efficiency. Our growth capex, still, as we said in our first quarter, is because of the extension rights of our landfill on the Maasvlakte, and we are investing in a boiler line for Coolrec on one of our Coolrec sites in France. The exceptional spend mainly relates to the restructuring and transaction cost. And finally, if you look at the red box, we have now come to a point where we are for the last time showing legacy outflows. This was almost 30 million for this half year, because the UK is still in there for 18.5 million. There's still some ATM offtake. There is the deferred COVID tax. But pleased to say, this is the last time we've now fully repaid our the COVID taxes. The UK Muni business, as Otto already explained, that divestment has now completed. And also when we look at ATM, of course, there is still some inventory, but it is no longer inhibiting the growth and the results of the ATM company. So all in all, our free cash flow conversion was around 17%, still including the legacy items, but already a major step towards our 40% free cash flow conversion target. Quick look at our balance sheet. I think the key point here is that the divestment of the UK Muni business is a key turning point for the company. The business has been, as you know, non-strategic, a drag on profitability, a drag on cash, so we are extremely pleased with this outcome as it marks a new beginning. We closed the deal on the 10th of October, so that actually means the balance sheet on the 30th of September is still showing it as an asset held for sale. The divestment of Muni, together with the turnaround of minerals and water, has truly transformed our profile from a company plagued by legacy issues to a strong, predictable platform for growth. Looking at our liquidity, we have 750 million of competitively priced debt facilities, which give us a headroom as per the 30th of September of 300 million. That is more than sufficient to fund the UK divestment from our own balance sheet. Of course, this will lead to temporarily elevated leverage and higher interest charges. But as stated, the pro forma leverage, when including the funding for the UK divestment, is 2.85, which is still slightly below the 2.9 we had guided before. Also, we expect to delever quickly as our margins will be improving over the year, and also our cash profile, as you have seen, is now rapidly improving. So our commitment to a leverage of 2 times still stands. Quick look into the divisions. Here, commercial waste, our largest business. I think the key point here to take away is our pricing power as a market leader, and also the results of the commercial plans in the Netherlands starting to show some early results. With a 3% growth, that is moving in the right direction compared to last year. The EBIT was underpinned by SG&A cost reduction, but there was also less help from the one-offs, as I just explained in the EBIT bridge. For the second half, we are expecting a significant impact from the price increases as of the October 1st and again January the 1st. When we look at Minerals and Water, of course, we are pleased to see the double-digit EBIT. This is another key component of optimizing our portfolio. And our strategy to move away from thermally clean soil to certified and on-spec products for the concrete industry is paying off. We see increased momentum from both governmental bodies, but also commercial parties for secondary and low-carbon materials. In FY24, we closed our loss-making site in Tisselt, which impacts the top line. That's why you don't see a growth number here yet, but it does improve the profitability. So the half-year results demonstrate we are fully on track to deliver on our commitment to return back to the 20 million EBIT by FY26. Specialities. This used to include the UK. Now this only includes our businesses Coolrec and Malta. Malta performance has been impacted by some headwinds in the glass market, but they still achieved an EBIT margin north of 13%. Coolrec has further optimized its processes and they handled record volumes. Even though outbound prices and the mix was a bit subdued, Coolrec still managed to increase the underlying EBIT. Although these businesses are not large, they are key to the Renewi growth story, with all the capex and incremental operational investments leading to the double-digit growth you see today, whilst maintaining or even increasing the EBIT margins. Then the outlook. What's for the future? I think back to our commitment for our shareholders, we have achieved a number of key deliverables during the first half. We divested our UK business, which has now been completed. We demonstrated the credibility of our turnaround plan of Minerals and Water. We resumed dividend payment over 24, and we will continue to do so next year. And we are cash flow positive. So when we look at the KPIs, the cash conversion really jumps out, showing a big step, even with the legacy cash out still in there. We've also returned to top-line growth, getting close to the 5% target, showing the strength of our market leadership. Of course, not everything is perfect. Market conditions have been challenging. So we have executed EBIT improvement measures because we also are keen to make a next step for EBIT margin and ROCE to reach our medium-term target. So, looking at our outlook, we have reiterated our confidence in our guidance for FY25. And we do realize this means a step up from H1 to H2. And we have well-defined plans to get there, with part of these already executed, such as our pricing initiatives, and other, say, cost-out initiatives, operational excellence, well on its way. So we're confident to hit our top-line growth target of 5%, as commercial plans both include the pricing, but also focus on sectors and customer segments where we can really add value as a recycling company. Also for EBIT, we're comfortable with consensus, as both pricing and further cost actions will come through in the second half. And then there's a free cash flow expectations of 50 million, of course excluding the UK divestment, to enable us to drive down leverage, pay a dividend, and also invest in high-yielding projects. So overall, we are mindful of the challenging circumstances, in particular for commercial waste, but we remain confident as we have again this half year demonstrated a strong track record in execution. With that, back to Otto.
Thanks, Annemiek. Now, with the completion of the portfolio optimization, we embark on a new chapter for Renewi. A chapter in which we will have a relentless focus on driving organic growth and margin improvement. And to get there, we have launched our One Renewi program earlier this year. So, what is One Renewi? It's a program that we're executing now and over the next 2 years. And we have defined 3 goals. First, for our customers, we want to delight our waste-producing customers with outstanding service. And we want to supply high-quality circular materials as output to our customers at the back end. Second, for our employees, we want to make our work from lead to order to cash easier, more efficient, and more enjoyable. And for our shareholders, we will deliver increasing shareholder returns. Now, this program is basically a full transformation of Renewi and is built on 3 pillars. First, we are simplifying our organizational structure. Second, we are harmonizing and digitizing our processes. And third, we're developing a performance-driven culture that will drive better and higher results. Now, we're working on all these 3 pillars in parallel, but the first is to focus on our organizational structure because it's a prerequisite for being able to deliver the other 2. After the exit of the UK municipal business, we have recognized and reorganized into a leaner and more efficient structure, as you can see in this picture. We will go to 2 divisions. One will be commercial waste, combining Belgium and the Netherlands, which is a business that's focused on providing a service of waste collection to 150,000 customers and to sort these generic waste streams into recyclates. And on the other hand, we'll have our specialities business, which in the future will include also minerals and water, which will be focused on processing and treatment of specialized waste streams for a small number of customers and turning those into high quality secondary materials. So truly production companies. Now, if you look at this new organizational structure, we see multiple benefits. For commercial waste, first of all, we will have 1 inbound sales and marketing team for the Benelux, offering strong segment focus, which is already something that we have been doing in the Netherlands for the last year. We'll now be translating to Belgium as well, focusing, for instance, on industry, on the medical sector, on government, on other businesses as well. Then on the back end of the commercial waste business, we have our material management and outbound sales team, again, for the Benelux, which looks at optimizing our mix and margin of the products coming in versus what we can make of these products into recyclates, and steering that mix to optimize profitability. Now, next to commercial waste, there are also some benefits for Renewi as a whole. We have centralized our support functions, including finance, HR, and check, and also strategy into central core teams. This allows them for going to 1 way of working, and at the end also for digitization and more efficiency. And also we have centralized our development and engineering capabilities, which we now can deploy across the organization depending where we see fit and where they can deliver the best returns. And that can also be in the smaller specialty businesses, as we talked about earlier. Now, these development and engineering capabilities are currently deployed in 5 main waste streams. In each of those 5 growth segments, we have several innovation programs ongoing that you can see here on this overview. Some of these projects have been completed, some are started, and some are new. Each of the 5 pillars have their own development center, which is directly linked to their main site of production. Now, these programs will fuel our organic growth over the next years, and they will contribute to higher returns as we're mixing up our portfolio. But in addition to driving growth by innovation, we are also driving organic growth by our commercial teams. And one example is helping our customers to get CSRD ready. 2 years ago, we launched our My Renewi portal, which gives access to all of our customers to how much waste they produce and also to their cost and invoicing. We have now taken an additional step and allowing our customers to get full insight in their Scope 3 emissions that are related to their waste production. The way it works is that this calculates per waste stream what the CO2 equivalent emissions are of collecting and processing these waste streams And the whole model is based on a combination or a cooperation that we have with TNO, which is a highly respected institute in the Netherlands. Now, customers can see what their carbon impact is on their scope 3 related to waste today, and they can also see if they change things, if they reduce their residual waste, if they go to more sorting of mono streams, and also if they reduce the overall volume, how that will impact their carbon emissions and at the end also impact their carbon footprint in scope 3. By choosing Renewi, we will help them to recycle more of their waste and minimize their waste brought to an incinerator or landfill. And this CSRD, this dashboard will see the direct impact of their progress. All in all, this is a very powerful tool that makes our customers CSRD ready also for waste. Now, CSRD is only one of many regulations that we see coming, because in the EU we see a continuous drive for legislation that is supporting circularity. Now here you see some recent legislative developments. First is related to how Europe intends to impose additional taxes on incineration, with the energy from waste facilities coming under the emission trading scheme. And this will make incineration more expensive and will make us more competitive. And it will push customers to focus on more recycling and less incineration. In Germany, this has already been implemented in 2024. In the Netherlands, there are discussions about 2026, and Europe is talking about 2027. But certainly this is coming and will increase our competitive position. Now, secondly, there is the Critical Raw Materials Act and also the Draghi report that confirm the importance of recycling and keeping scarce raw materials in Europe to reduce our dependency from China and the US. And thirdly, there is lots of talk about the European carbon border tax and other suggested price adjustments to again increase the competitiveness of the European companies and industries, and that will also benefit Renewi, because our recyclates sometimes have to compete with virgin materials that are imported from the Far East, and this will make us more competitive. So when you look at all this, we are well positioned to meet the increasing demand from recycling and also from circular materials. Now, this brings me to the end of my presentation. And some of the key takeaways are, first of all, our legacy issues are resolved and we now have the right portfolio to win. Second, we have the momentum on our side. Some of it has already been visible in the first half with revenue and EBIT up and the generation of free cash flow. Second, our One Renewi transformation that will determine the future for us in the next years and make us more competitive is well underway. Thirdly, we see strong market interest from circular materials. Fourth, we have a very loyal customer base. We just got numbers in from our larger customers, and we see that there is a 98% renewal of the current contracts. Our innovative programs are reinforcing our leadership as a pure play recycler. And as I referred to at the end, European legislation is helping us to further increase recycling. So we have truly turned the corner, and we will make our longer term outlook a reality, step by step boosting shareholders' returns. Thank you. We will now open it up to questions, and I think we will start with questions from the analysts first, who are with us live on the phone.
We're going to ask you guys to unmute yourself. So Andrew Nusi from Peel Hunt, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yeah, good morning. A couple of questions from me, please. First of all, if we look at commercial waste, and I guess more of a modelling point here, what are your expectations in terms of any one-off benefits in the second half that we should consider? Second question, in minerals and water, obviously the 20 million euro goal 26. Can you help us just a little bit in terms of what the journey might be now in terms of volume, price, and obviously you've hit the sort of 10% margin in this set of results. And lastly, a bit of a sort of high level question, recycling rate sort of 66%. If we look over the medium term, what should that look like? And equally, the sensitivity then to profit by increasing that recycling rate. Thank you.
You want to take the first?
Thank you, Andrew. Let me take the first question. In terms of one-offs, we tend to not model these, but I think in general there are always some pluses and minuses at the year end. So maybe a couple of million, but I would not sort of put a big number there, to be honest.
Yeah. So on your second question, Andrew, minerals and water, the focus has been on improving our quality so that we can sell our sand and gravel to the concrete industry. And we have seen in the first half that our quality now is good enough, although we can further improve it, but our sales is starting to increase. And that will allow us to also start increasing the incoming volumes, because for the last years we have put a hold on those incoming volumes, because at the end we needed to make sure we can also sell them at the back end. So the sales team of Minerals and Water is truly focused now on starting to increase the pipeline for projects for incoming volumes. And we expect over the next years to see a gradual improvement of volume that can grow, I would say 5 to 10% per year as a minimum. On the profitability, I think the 10% EBIT margin that we have reached is pretty much, I think, what we would like to keep it at. It can potentially go a little bit higher, but for your modeling, I would suggest to keep it there and really focus on the volume. And then I think thirdly, you were asking about the recycling rate. It is true that now we have a recycling rate of around 66%. We still have the ambition as Renewi in the long term to get to 75% that we communicated a few years ago. Recycling rate is determined by several factors. One is, of course, as we turn more of waste streams that go to incineration into recyclates, that will help our recyclate rate. And that's what we are focused on. And we expect every year you can add 1 to 2% of recycling rate as we continue. However, what we've also noticed over the last 2 years is that recycling rate is impacted by the mix of incoming waste streams. And what we have seen, as you may recall, is that because the construction and demolition market, where we have a high recycling rate, was subdued over the last years, that has impacted our overall recycling rate. So that mix effect is more difficult to predict, certainly in the long term, because it's depending on market conditions and market developments. But overall, our ambition to grow our recycling rate stands, and we will continue to focus on that moving forward.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Juan Rodriguez from Kepler Cheuvreux has a question. Juan, can you unmute yourself, please?
Hi, yes, thank you. And good morning. Thank you for taking our questions. I have two on my side, if I may. The first one is on guidance, because you signaled that you expect to reach the consensus expectations at the EBIT level. Can you please let us know or give us one call on the EPS level, how you see the 0.7 euros per share that I see at the consensus level? That would be the first. And the second one is on price signals or price increases that you signal. You, if I'm not mistaken, you signal 2 more coming, one in October and one in January. If that is the case, what is the level of price increases that you're expecting on that? And have you seen any impact on your market share of these price effects that you've been putting on customers? Thanks.
Sure, thank you, Juan. But that's more than 2 questions, but I'll try to answer them all. I think your first question, help me there a bit.
Yes, guidance on consensus.
Yeah, guidance. I think what we're saying is we are comfortable with consensus, but it's important to understand that the current consensus still includes the UK Muni. So we are comfortable with that. But of course, if you do like for like, you need to make sure that you also take into account a couple of million, say 2 to 3 million, that normally UK Muni would also contribute. But in general, we are, as I said, we are comfortable with consensus. I think when it comes to EPS, the EPS will simply, especially when you look at the normalized EPS, will simply flow through from EBIT as it does for the half year. So you can extrapolate that when you look at the EBIT consensus, you can extrapolate, say, the normalized underlying earnings per share. I think what is important is that, of course, the discount rate mark to market we have to do always at half year and full year does impact the statutory EPS. So, of course, we had a big plus last year. We have now a small minus this year. It's a non-cash impact because we basically have to mark to market, according to IFRS, our long-term provisions at half year and full year. So that's what you see for statutory, but underlying, it will simply flow through from the EBIT consensus. Comes to pricing. I think I referenced the 1st of October and the 1st of January. We generally do not comment on how much price increase we push through for obvious, also for competitive reasons. But what we do see generally in the market, there's some pressure on capacity, but we also see some additional processing requirements from the incinerators, and that is what we put through as an extra charge to cover for extra logistic and processing costs on the 1st of October. And on the 1st of January, we tend to push through whatever inflation is expected for the year to come. So that is generally matching or slightly better than inflation. So that's on prices, and I think in market share, so far we have seen our competitors follow. So we are the market leader, we are leading in price, and our competitors tend to follow because they basically see the same cost increases and requirements that we see. So generally our market share is stable, and of course we're also working on gaining market share rather than just have a stable market share.
Thank you, quite useful. A follow-up, if I may, on the EPS level, because if I'm not mistaken, I saw on your presentation that you posted an underlying EPS of 0.24, if I'm not mistaken, or 0.25. So we should use this for the underlying performance at the full year level.
I don't have
I guess that adjusts for the discount rate movement and so on, right?
Yeah, so if you look at underlying, then that is excluding the discount rate movement, indeed. So if you look at how it flows through from EBIT to EPS for the underlying, there you can simply extrapolate because we do not expect any other big movements in tax or in interest other than the usual. So there you can simply extrapolate the EBIT you expect in the same way as you see it flow through in the half year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a question from Joe Brent from Liberum Panmure. Joe, can you unmute yourself?
Absolutely. Good morning.
Morning.
Maybe try and be a bit helpful and do it one at a time, if I may. Can we start off just by talking about your view of what the Netherlands construction outlook feels like?
Yeah. So what we have seen over the last years, of course, during COVID, that the construction volume increased quite significantly because people were remodeling their houses. Then it has come down in 23, 24, and actually came below levels pre-corona or pre-COVID. And what we have seen in the last 6 months is that construction volumes have stabilized. So it looks like we have bottomed out. Predictions from ING and others are that construction in 2025 will slightly increase as the Netherlands is still coping with a huge shortage on housing. But in summary, we have reached the bottom, stable volumes right now, and hopefully some improvement moving forward.
Thank you. And secondly, could you just talk us through what the costs and benefits of One Renewi might be, if that's appropriate?
Yeah, well, we indicated it's a program that will go over the next 2 to 3 years, consisting of different components. In terms of the restructuring, we already are mostly through this, and we are announcing our final step in this later this month. If you look at the part around digitizing our processes, that is a longer term project that we are working on. So we expect that to take another 2 years, where slowly but surely we will convert division and subdivision by subdivision over to this new system. And the full benefits of that will truly be visible over 2 to 3 years, where our objective is to reduce our overall cost by about 40 million. And then the third part is around culture. And of course, that doesn't cost much, but it is important to further underline our performance culture.
Thank you. Then finally from me, if I may, just on the invoice discounting, Could you tell us on what the move was? And I notice you haven't got your notes with you, so it might be hard, from year end to interims, and where that number appears in the accounts.
Yeah, I think it's in the comments, Joe. So we are, on top of my head, moving from 116 to 126 million, roughly. So we have an additional 10 million of cash because of the invoice discounting.
And is that in other debtors? Is it the number?
No, it's in cash because it's basically our invoice given to KBC who are paying us. So it's really the conversion of debtors into cash.
Thank you.
We have a question from Joran van Aken from Degroof Petercam. Joran, would you unmute yourself?
Yeah, good morning. I missed the first part of the presentation, so apologies if you already answered this. But on ATM, you mentioned in the press release that the current TCG inventory is no longer a constraint on the throughput. So does that then mean that in H2 we should expect a significant ramp up from today's level of 50 tons? And do you have any idea where this should go then?
Well, as I alluded to earlier, indeed the legacy levels are to a level now that is, I would say, normalized. So your concerns in the past, I hopefully have been remediated. At the same time, to be able to increase the throughput, of course, you also need to increase your customer input. And that's what we're working on currently, but that doesn't go in a step change. So we're working diligently to make sure that we are getting pipeline projects in, and we will see a continuous improvement over the next years, in fact, in this volume throughput. And your question around how much capacity would we have? Indeed, we have been running already test running at double the throughput that we are running today. So there is a lot of future capacity available for us to take.
Okay, so it will be more gradual over a couple of years rather than, let's say, in the next 6 months.
Yes, absolutely. I think what you see a step change in profitability. And that's really related to the fact that we are able to take these raw materials, the soil, and turn it into materials that you can sell in the market rather than you have to pay to get rid of them, which is what was the case in the past. So that is the big EBIT improvement.
Clear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a question on the chat from James Bayliss from Berenberg. James asks, on M&A, is there a geographic focus?
Well, on M&A, we obviously are looking at the current leverage and make sure that that's our first focus, to deleverage. At the same time, we do see a consolidation in this industry, and we are constantly looking at potential opportunities. The first focus right now has been on our specialties businesses, which, as you already know, are focused on multiple countries also outside of the Benelux, to basically replicate what we do already very well in Coolrec and in Malta, and see how we can further grow those businesses, either by organic, like the investments we're making in France for Coolrec, but also potentially with inorganic. And the advantage of those would be that the acquisitions would be smaller in terms of size and scope, because at the end you buy a manufacturing operation, and the collection of the waste streams there in specialties is already organized by others. So that avoids you to invest largely into trucks and employees.
Thank you. We have a question from David Larkham from Edison. Can you provide more details on the one-off benefits of circa 4 million? Where are you in terms of the cost program, such as the consolidation of management in commercial, and how much of the savings are still to come through, all smushed together?
Sorry, I only caught the first part.
So first one, more details on the one-off benefits of 4 million.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of different ones. It can be sort of a few accrual releases. It's some provision releases that we do not no longer need because there were some smaller court cases, etc. So it's a mix of various things as usual.
The second part of the question was, where are you in terms of the cost program, such as the consolidation of management in the commercial waste division? And how much of the savings are still to come through?
I think when we look at the cost, we committed to the cost out program on SG&A cost that we called Simplify last year. So that is all done. That is resulting into roughly 15 million of cost savings, and half of that has come through as a part of Simplify during the first half. When it comes to what Otto just talked about the One Renewi organization, we have not put a number on that yet. There will be some savings, but also we are expecting to start implementation after approval from our Works Council, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And then some cost savings will come through, but we have not put a number on that yet.
And we have a follow-up question from James Bayliss from Berenberg, also on M&A. Now that you have fully exited the UK, does that mean future M&A will solely be focused on Europe, where you can drive operational synergies, or would you consider any assets or acquisitions back in the UK or regions you don't currently operate in?
Well, certainly the municipal waste exit in the UK was specifically related to the fact that that was municipal waste, which we are not focused on at Renewi. Commercial waste is something we're focused on, and as I just alluded to, our key focus right now, if you look at M&A, would be looking at things like glass and appliances, where UK would certainly not be ruled out.
Thank you. We have, no more questions at this time.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions, then I would like to thank you for your attention, and we look forward to continue our dialogue in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.